witchcraft, betrayal, secret agendas. Was King James a tyrant who manipulated the Bible for his own gain? Or is everything you thought you knew about him a myth? What if the most controversial king in Bible history wasn't the villain he's been made out to be? Today, I'm exposing the myths, unraveling the facts, and giving you the truth behind the man who authorized the most influential Bible translation in history. Let's start with a myth that refuses to die, that King James personally set and translated the Bible. Here's the truth. That just didn't happen. King James authorized the translation and set 15 strict rules to guide the process. But the actual work was done by 47 of the most brilliant scholars of the time. These scholars were divided into 6 committees and were fluent in the original biblical languages of Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. Their goal wasn't to create something new, but to refine and unify the earlier translations, like the Bishop's Bible, the Geneva Bible, and William Tyndale's groundbreaking work. This was no vanity project. The King James Bible was designed to bring unity to a divided England and provide an accurate, accessible translation for the English-speaking world. If you've ever wondered what went on behind the scenes, got to check out this book. It's called Translating for King James. It reveals the translators' rigorous methods, their debates over word choices, and even how they cross-reference multiple sources to ensure accuracy. This wasn't the work of one man. It was the masterpiece of collaboration. Anytime you hear claims about the King James Bible, ask yourself, are they based on fact or are they just repeated myths? Here's a spicy one. Did King James betray his own mother, Mary, Queen of Scots, to take her throne? This claim might sound dramatic, but it's historically inaccurate. Let's look at the facts. Mary was forced to abdicate the Scottish throne in 1567. At that time, King James was just 13 months old, a literal baby. He wasn't conspiring in his crib. Mary's eventual imprisonment and execution in 1587 were orchestrated by her cousin Queen Elizabeth, who saw Mary as a political and religious threat. And while some accuse King James of being complicit, the evidence tells a completely different story. James wrote letters to Elizabeth, protesting his mother's imprisonment and her execution. These letters are preserved in Letters of King James VI and I, and they reveal a young king trying to navigate a politically dangerous situation, but not betraying his mother. When Elizabeth died in 1603, James's ascension to the English throne wasn't some shady backroom deal. It was lawful and based on his lineage as Mary's son, making him the legitimate heir. Imagine being in James's position, caught between loyalty to your mother and the political reality of keeping your kingdom stable. Ask yourself, what would you do? Here's where things get really wild. Demonology, King James's book on witchcraft. It's often cited as proof that he was obsessed with the occult. But have you ever actually read it for yourself? From the first page of the preface to the reader, King James makes his purpose clear. He wasn't indulging a fascination with witchcraft. He was combating it. I've been trying to acquire a physical copy of the 17th century printing of Demonology, but I do have scans of an original 1597 edition. Let me read a portion of the preface to you. The fearful abounding at this time in this country of these detestable slaves of the devil, the witches or enchanters, have moved me, beloved reader, to dispatch and post this following treatise of mine, not in any wise, as I protest, to serve for a shew of my learning or engineering, but only moved of conscience, to press thereby so far as I can to resolve the doubting hearts of many, both that such assaults of Satan are most certainly practiced, and that the instruments thereof merits most severely to be punished. King James wrote about the fearful abounding of these detestable slaves of the devil. He says his intent was to resolve the doubting hearts of many who questioned the reality of witchcraft. At the time, skepticism about witchcraft was growing, thanks to the work of Reginald Scots, The Discovery of Witchcraft. James saw this as dangerous because it undermined societal vigilance against what he believed to be a real spiritual threat. Demonology, published in 1597, wasn't a how-to guide for witches. It was a theological defense written as a dialogue between a skeptic and a believer, aimed at educating judges and magistrates on how to address witchcraft within a biblical framework. Let this remind us to always go back to the source before jumping to conclusions about history and, better yet, scripture. Here's a rumor that always seems to grab a lot of attention. Was King James romantically involved with his male courtiers like Robert Carr and George Villiers, the Duke of Buckingham? It's the kind of claim that gets repeated in whispers and sensational headlines. But let's dig deeper. What's the real story? First, understand this. In the 17th century, accusations of homosexuality were a favorite weapon of political rivals. They were used to smear reputations and stir up controversy, often without evidence. King James was no exception. Figures like Sir Anthony Weldon, a disgruntled critic, wrote scathing accounts after being dismissed from court, accusing James of impropriety to damage his legacy. But let's pause and think about the context. In James's time, expressions of loyalty and affection between men were often effusive by modern standards. Letters and speeches from this era are full of flowery language and terms of endearment that today might be misinterpreted. For instance, James once referred to Villiers as my sweet child and wife, a phrase that would raise eyebrows today, but was not uncommon then as a demonstration of loyalty and trust. Imagine this. You're a king in the 1600s, navigating political enemies who want to bring you down. They can't attack the Bible you authorized, so they attack you. This wasn't just about character, it was about control. Accusations like these weren't facts, they were weapons. Here's the bottom line. Even if these claims held any truth whatsoever, which remains highly debatable, they don't change the King James Bible's integrity. Why? Because the translation itself wasn't about King James himself. It was the work of 47 scholars who each meticulously translated and cross-checked texts in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. Their dedication to the faithfulness of the word far outweighs any personal scandal or rumor. Here's what this teaches us. History isn't just about facts. It's also about agendas. Sometimes the loudest voices aren't telling the truth. They're just trying to distract us. And we, as Bible readers, must look beyond the noise to focus on what truly matters. Now that we've uncovered the truth about these accusations, let's tackle the real question. Did King James manipulate the Bible for his own purposes? What the translators wrote might completely change how you view this historic text. This claim actually falls apart the moment you read the translators to the reader, the preface of the King James Bible. The translators themselves state their goal. We never thought to make of a bad one a good one, but to make a good one better. The translators included marginal notes in the 1611 edition, offering alternative interpretations and explanations. This transparency shows their commitment to faithfulness, not manipulation. And remember, the translation process was carried out by committees, with each section reviewed multiple times to prevent bias. If you want to know more about how the King James Bible compares to earlier translations like the Geneva Bible, stick around. I've got a video diving into that next. So, was King James a tyrant manipulating the Bible, or was he a misunderstood defender of faith? The evidence speaks for itself. If you've heard any other myths about King James or the Bible translation named after him, share them in the comments. I'd love to hear what else is out there. And click here to watch my next video comparing the King James Bible to the Geneva Bible. You'll be surprised at what you'll learn.